Hello everybody and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer, and I am back with yet another Nottingham Forest transfer video. And this one's the big one because Forest have finally got the man. They've been wanting him all transfer window. The owner himself has been trying to get this deal done for some time, and just when it looked like it was dead, it has now happened. Morgan Gibbs-White will be a Nottingham Forest player. Yes guys, welcome back once again, and for those that don't know, we are a general football channel, but me and James that run this channel are both Wolves fans. So I'm going to give you my perspective on this deal, as well as talking about Morgan Gibbs-White as a Wolves fan and letting you guys know exactly what Morgan Gibbs-White has to offer. But before I do that, one more thing I want to quickly announce is the fact that we'll be doing a watch-along this Saturday. James that runs the channel with me is back in Asia, which means Saturday 3 o'clock watch-alongs have returned. And the reason I'm announcing that is because we will be doing Nottingham Forest versus Everton. It's actually Everton versus Nottingham Forest. But yeah, we'll be doing that watch-along. So come and join us 2:45 on Saturday, basically to join the watch-along. And let's get into the video and speak about Morgan Gibbs-White. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as well. Right, let's talk about Gibbs-White then. And let's start off with the deal because I'll be honest, I've seen the memes coming about, and I'm sure you guys have as well. People having a go about the headline, which is Nottingham Forest have signed Morgan Gibbs-White for £45 million. And people obviously have took that as a headline, ran with it, said it's overpriced, yada, yada, yada. Let's break that down. Firstly, 25 million is the agreed price. We then see 10 million of likely add-ons. Hearing from John Percy, those add-ons are 5 million if Nottingham Forest stay up. Firstly with that, if Nottingham Forest stay up, paying an extra 5 million, you imagine Morgan Gibbs-White is going to have a fair share and contributed a fair bit in helping Forest stay up. Extra 5 million, fair enough, pay it. The other one is Morgan Gibbs-White making 20 appearances will also trigger an extra 5 million. The final 7 million that I'm hearing, which will obviously make the deal at around the £42 million mark, is if Morgan Gibbs-White plays for England. Now, if you look at look at the England team, look at how talented, how many options we have at the moment. If Morgan Gibbs-White plays for England, then it's very likely he is going to be worth at least 42 million to be able to play for England with the range of players that we have at the moment. So that was the add-on which some are saying is unlikely to happen. Could still happen, to be fair. But you have to say, if he becomes an England international, he's going to be worth around £40 million at least. So I think I need a bit of context needs putting onto that first. You know, I think sometimes it's quite quick to grab a headline, oh, £45 million, £42 million, and just run with it and go, Forest are massively overpaying. I think you've got to break it down a little. But what I would say is it's probably likely, and I think 90% of those are watching this will agree, that Wolves are likely to at least receive £35 million for him. So what do I think of that deal? Because let's take it at the value of £35 million. Firstly, it's not as bad as £42 million. It is still a slight risk for someone who's done absolutely excellent within the Championship, but is yet to prove whether he can do it in the Premier League. But having said that, one, he's still a very young player. Two, it's a player that the owner himself wanted to bring into the club. And three, it's also a player which Steve Cooper has worked with before. So he already has that rapport with Morgan Gibbs-White. So when you take those three factors into consideration, at the end of the day, it depends if the deal actually works for the club. And you can see why Forest have been, willing to pay this money. In terms of Morgan Gibbs-White myself, and I feel a lot of Wolves fans, although they might not say it now, a lot of Wolves fans were looking forward to seeing Morgan Gibbs-White have a shot in the Premier League, of course, with his homegrown club. Unfortunately, we won't get to see that. You guys will get to see him have his shot in the Premier League with Nottingham Forest. But Morgan Gibbs-White always divided opinion amongst the fan base, to be honest. It was one of those, I think a lot felt he was ready for it. Me, certainly from what I saw of him in pre-season and the first two games, I thought he was one of our most promising players, to be honest. And I thought, he still looks a little rough in terms of not like a finely nicely cut diamond. He still looked like, he needed to improve his game. But you could see the potential. He looked good. And for me, I thought it was going to be his chance to finally play with his boyhood club and be a regular starter for us this season. So you know, when you consider that, there is the other side of the coin where many people are saying he's the one that you want to sell. But I think you've got to also consider how he performed in the Championship as well. He was outstanding with in the Championship. Swansea fans loved him, regretted that they couldn't sign him. Sheffield United, of course, Nottingham Forest will know him about his time at Sheffield United. Standout player for them in the playoffs against yourselves. Sheffield United absolutely gutted that they obviously couldn't sign him as well, and said he's definitely going, you know, on to bigger things and playing in the Premier League. And both of those fan bases loved him. So I think that kind of accounts for the kind of character he is. I also saw the fact that him and his partner did a lot for people within the community as well, which also gives a bit of sentiment to kind of what person he's like behind the scenes. I could also have seen really, you know, buddying up quite well with some of the players. One player that jumps out initially to me is Jesse Lingard. I could see them two hitting it off and, you know, being friends off the pitch. But let's talk about what you're going to get on the pitch as well. You're going to get a player that, as I said, isn't the finished article yet, but does that really matter with the age he's got? Of course, it's a bit like the youngster. You guys have Brennan Johnson, you know, maybe not the fully finished article, but it's all about the potential. And the one thing I would say about Morgan Gibbs-White, it's a bit like when you go, can't think what it's called, like the gold picking, basically going full gold sanding or something it's called, isn't it? Where you're trying to get the gold pieces out. You could sometimes do it at holiday attractions. It's like when you do that and you're not sure, it looks like you've got a gold piece, but you're not 100% sure. Is it going to be a gold piece? Is it going to be something that doesn't quite pan out on what you wanted? And that's how I would describe Morgan Gibbs-White. Some feel that he's going to be that golden piece, that player that's got such a huge potential and will become a complete player. There are others that will kind of look at it and go, no, that's not a piece we want. We want him to obviously move on. And that is basically what it is from a Wolves perspective, although I always sat on the side of the coin where I felt Morgan Gibbs-White myself has a lot of potential. I think we've seen him grow year on year, get progressively better. And of course, he can play a number of positions across the front line. Of course, even at Sheffield United last season, when there was a crisis with the strikers, that they didn't have any strikers, we saw him play as a two-man, basically striker pairing. We've obviously seen him on the left-hand side. He was used on the left-hand side for us at the start of the season and pre-season. He can also be used in a number 10 role as well. And he could probably play out on the right side as well. So he can play anywhere across those forward positions. So I'm sure there'll be a spot for him somewhere within that forward position. Be interested to see where Nottingham Forest probably place him. My guess would be maybe as the attacking midfielder. That's probably where I reckon that Steve Cooper sees that he's most likely going to go. But you could see that maybe him and Brennan Johnson are going to interchange a bit. There'll be a nice fluid kind of interchange between those two. That's something I expect to happen quite quickly. What I would say as well with Morgan Gibbs-White is he's a player that can dribble on the ball. We've seen in the Championship, he can also score goals as well, and he can also get assists. He's a player that sometimes tries the fancy flicks. He sometimes tries the skill. And yes, it doesn't always come off. When it does, it's great to see. Sometimes it can get a tiny bit frustrating if you're one of those people watching that doesn't like a player that tries all fancy flicks. And sometimes he does just need to learn to do the basics. But to be honest, he's coming in under a manager, Steve Cooper, who, well, I believe, and, you know, sort that out and probably did when he was with Swansea, to be fair. But he does like to express himself as a player. Of course, people always have different opinions on whether they enjoy that kind of player or not. Me, myself, I always enjoyed that kind of player. I always like a player that's not afraid to express himself on the pitch. And if that does mean the odd flick or odd trick which doesn't work out, I don't mind, because when it does, it looks fabulous and it's also effective as well. So I think you guys are getting a very good player. Time will tell if the price you've paid was ultimately too much. That would be a question. But it does have to be said, if Forest stay up, staying up is worth 150 million these days. So, you know, if he contributes to that, the price you've paid may be a little irrelevant. And of course, if he brings you guys lots of goals or lots of fun times as well, lots of winning results, then I think as a football fan, we don't really care what the price is. We're only care if he doesn't perform to how we expected the player to perform, or if something happens that puts the club in financial trouble, which if Nottingham Forest stay up, and as long as they do stay up, I obviously don't see happening. So guys, that is my thoughts on Morgan Gibbs-White. Let me know in the comments how excited you are for this signing. I know it was a signing that the owner wanted so much. Was it a signing that you guys wanted as well? Let me know your thoughts. And as I said at the start of the video, just a reminder, hit that like button. Please do subscribe. And also come back to the channel on Saturday for the Everton versus Nottingham Forest watch along. It'll be starting at 2:45 with James. He'll be telling you all about what's going on in the game. Hopefully we'll have a bit of banter in the chat as well. And I'll pop along at halftime as well, just to have a bit of a chat with you. So, you know, basically James could have a bit of a late break and I could have a chat with you as well. So guys, hit that like button. Please do subscribe. And hopefully I'll catch some of you on another video or Saturday. Take care and goodbye.